Throughout cinema's history, audiences have proven time and again that they love nothing more than a good love story. Classics like Casablanca and smash hits like Titanic are some of the most well-loved films of all time, due in no small part to the fact that audiences enjoy watching their central romances play out over and over again. But some of the best romance movies are romantic comedies. A good romantic comedy effortlessly blends together the best elements of both genres, delivering an engaging love story that can keep its viewers laughing throughout. However, while there are plenty of great romantic comedies out there, only a few stand as absolutely essential viewing. Welcome to Popcorn Programming, and here is our list of the 10 best romantic comedies of all time that you absolutely should watch. Pop pop! In number 10, we have The Apartment from 1960, directed by Billy Wilder. In The Apartment, office worker C.C. Baxter, played by Jack Lemmon, also known as Bud, loans out his apartment several nights a week to his higher-ups to use for their extramarital affairs. This arrangement works mostly to Baxter's advantage, allowing him to quickly climb the corporate ladder until he discovers that one of his bosses, Jeff Sheldrake, played by Fred McCurry, is visiting his apartment with Fran Kubelik, played by Shirley MacLaine, who is an elevator worker whom Baxter has developed an attraction to. Since its release, the film has become a timeless classic, often indeed one of the best romantic comedies of all time. Simply put, The Apartment has very few flaws. Lemmon and MacLaine are excellent leads who are given some great dialogue to work with. Baxter is a likeable character who's given a surprising amount of depth, especially when he opens up to Fran about his mental health struggles. While Fran is equally likeable, but understandably guarded as a result of her own romantic troubles. It certainly isn't the funniest romantic comedy in the world, owing to some of its darker subject matter, but The Apartment is still an essential watch due to just how compelling its central romance is. In number 9, we have The Philadelphia Story from 1940, directed by George Cukor. In The Philadelphia Story, Tracy Lord, played by Katharine Hepburn, who is a divorced woman and finds herself having to pick between 3 different men. George Kittredge, played by John Howard, to whom she is proposed, Mike Connor, played by James Stewart, who is a journalist, and C.K. Dexter Haven, played by Cary Grant, her ex-husband. The film was a critical and financial success that played a large role in rejuvenating Hepburn's career. The Philadelphia Story's most notable aspect is its cast. Hepburn, Grant and Stewart were 3 of the biggest stars in the 1940s, and the film does an excellent job of showcasing the talent of all 3. It is also one of the definitive examples of a comedy of remarriage, a romantic comedy subgenre in which a former husband and wife reunite after exploring other romantic options. The fact that the subgenre played such an important part in the continued prominence of romantic comedies throughout the 1940s, in tandem with the fact that it features some of the era's biggest stars, solidifies The Philadelphia Story as an absolute essential watch for anyone exploring the history of romantic comedies. In number 8, we have Love, Simon from 2018, directed by Greg Berlanti. Love, Simon focuses on Simon Spear, played by Nick Robinson, who is a high school senior who is concealing the fact that he is gay from his family and friends. When another male student makes an anonymous post regarding his sexuality, Simon emails him and begins to discuss his own sexual identity. Unfortunately, fellow student Martin Addison, played by Logan Miller, discovers the emails and holds them over Simon's head, threatening to publicly out him if he doesn't assist him with his own romantic difficulties. It is a particularly enjoyable traditional romantic comedy, but it's also especially notable for being one of the first romantic comedies released by a major studio to focus on a gay individual. That subject matter is exactly what makes Love, Simon an essential watch. It beautifully illustrates the inner conflicts that can arise when people are considering how or when to come out in a way that few romantic comedies have before or since. In general, gay experiences have been woefully underrepresented in rom-coms, making Love, Simon an extremely refreshing film, especially when it was first released. In the time since, the film's memorable characters and witty script have continued to endear it to audiences. In number 7, we have Sleepless in Seattle from 1993, directed by Nora Ephron. Back in the 90s, there were few romantic comedy duos more iconic than Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. Together, the two starred in the underrated Joe vs. the Volcano and the beloved classic You've Got Mail. However, their second film, 1993's Sleepless in Seattle, is generally regarded as their best collaboration. The film follows Sam Baldwin, who Hanks plays, is a recently widowed single father. While attempting to cope with the loss of his wife, played by Carrie Lowell, is coaxed by his son, Jonah, played by Ross Malinger, to discuss his emotional state over the radio. In doing so, Sam attracts the attention of a number of women, one of whom is Annie Reed, played by Ryan, a woman who, despite her engagement, finds herself unable to stop thinking about Sam. What sets Sleepless in Seattle apart from its many of its contemporaries is the fact that Sam and Annie only ever actually meet at the very end of the film, with the rest of its runtime building to that moment. This approach may be polarising to some, but in many ways it perfectly encapsulates the escapism that many look for in a romantic comedy. Rather than being about Sam and Annie's relationship, the film essentially centres around the fact that they are destined to be together, as most of their eventual meeting is built on a series of coincidences, like Annie hearing the radio show in the first place. This spin on the genre also allows the movie to uniquely explore the relationship between a single father and his son, which is a topic that new films, let alone rom-coms, rarely touch upon. Simply said, Sleepless in Seattle is an extremely enjoyable standout that everyone should see at least once. In number 6 we have Notting Hill from 1999, directed by Roger Mitchell. Just as Sleepless in Seattle combined the talents of two romantic comedy heavyweights, namely Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, so too did Notting Hill, which stars Julia Roberts alongside Hugh Grant. In it, famous actress Anna Scott, played by Roberts, visits a bookstore where she happens to meet its charming owner William Thacker, played by Grant. Later the two literally and figuratively bump into each other again, at which point they develop a mutual attraction. The film was a success at the box office and is now widely recognised as one of the best 90s rom-coms. Like many of the best romantic comedies, Notting Hill's success largely rests upon the performance of its two leads. Roberts is great, showing how she became an icon of the genre, but Grant is the real highlight here. He is exceptionally likeable, displaying a unique charisma that is awkward yet confident at the same time. The script is also of note, containing plenty of memorable side characters, like William's roommate Spike, played by Rhys Ifans, as well as some interesting commentary on celebrity culture. When it comes down to it, Notting Hill is a fantastic film starring two rom-com legends, making it a movie that should not be missed. At number 5 we have When Harry Met Sally from 1989, directed by Rob Reiner. Directed by Rob Reiner and written by Nora Ephron, who would later go on to direct both Sleepless in Seattle and You've Got Mail, When Harry Met Sally is often viewed as one of the best 80s romantic comedies. The film centres on Harry Burns, played by Billy Crystal, and Sally Albright, played by Meg Ryan, two people who seem incredibly incompatible upon their initial meeting, but gradually form a connection as they find themselves unexpectedly reunited over the years. What makes Harry Met Sally such a standout is the captivating relationship between its title characters. They spend most of the film's runtime just as friends, getting to know each other and building a genuine relationship before becoming romantically entwined. Even when their romance finally does begin to blossom, it moves slowly, partly as a result of their refusal to admit their feelings to each other. Backed by wonderful performances from Crystal and Ryan, the relationship between Harry and Sally is one of the most compelling in the genre, cementing When Harry Met Sally as an absolutely essential must-watch. In number 4 we have Crazy Stupid Love from 2011, directed by Glenn Ficarra and John Requa. Crazy Stupid Love follows Cal Weaver, played by Steve Carell, who is a man who, in the wake of his divorce, is trained to womanize by Jacob Palmer, played by Ryan Gosling, who is a philanderer he meets at a local bar. At the same time, a number of other people in Cal's life struggle with romance in their own ways, including his son Robbie, played by John Bobo, who's developed a crush on his babysitter Leo Tipton, and his daughter Hannah, played by Emma Stone, who meets her longtime boyfriend Josh, played by Josh Groban, and happens to end up with Jacob. The film was the first collaboration between Gosling and Stone, but is also absolutely hilarious, often being remembered as one of the best rom-coms of the 2010s. Crazy Stupid Love sets itself apart by effectively exploring different varieties of love at different stages of life, as well as the impact that love can have on people. For example, while Cal's life is completely upended in a negative way when the one romantic love he's ever known, his wife, Emily, played by Julianne Moore, leaves him, Jacob's life begins to improve the moment that he begins to open up and form a real relationship with Hannah. The main cast of characters is well developed, and each member of the ensemble gets a good few laughs out of loud moments throughout. Some of the crass humour found in its script may not appeal to everyone, but Crazy Stupid Love is a wildly enjoyable rom-com that shouldn't be skipped. In number 3 we have Pretty Woman from 1990, directed by Gary Marshall. Pretty Woman was the first film that established Julia Roberts as one of the most predominant romantic comedy leading ladies. It sees Roberts playing Vivian Ward, who is a sex worker who is hired by Edward Lewis, played by Richard Gere, a lawyer, over the course of an entire week. As time progresses, Vivian and Edward open up to each other and grow closer, leading to the formation of an unlikely relationship. The film was a huge hit, earning what some might call an obscene amount of money at the box office. Pretty Woman is a classic precisely because of Robert's performance. She is exceedingly charming as Vivian, making her an easy protagonist to root for. The fact that she shares such great chemistry with Gear adds an extra layer of believability to their relationship, making it just as easy to root for them to eventually end up together, even through the many mistakes that Edward makes throughout. Some may find his optimism a bit cheesy, but that's also a huge part of what makes Pretty Woman such an appealing rom-com to begin with. Its lead performances are an overall amusement solidify Pretty Woman as an absolute must-watch. At number 2, we have It Happened One Night from 1934, directed by Frank Capra. It Happened One Night is an early romantic comedy in which wealthy heiress Ellie Andrews, played by Claudette Colbert, travels to her future husband, King Wesley, played by Jameson Thomas, a man of whom her father disapproves, while with the assistance of journalist Peter Warne, played by Clark Gable. Along the way, Ellie is forced to question her decision to marry King when she and Peter find themselves slowly falling in love with each other. The film was a major financial and critical success, even going on to sweep what's known as the Big Five at the Oscars. Despite the fact that it was released in 1934, It Happened One Night has aged remarkably well. Colbert and Gable share excellent chemistry, both romantic and comedic, built on the back of a fantastic script that consistently places the two of them at its centre. Some may initially be turned away by the film's lack of colour or even its simplicity, but Ellie and Peter's romance is so engaging that it is absolutely worth giving It Happened One Night a chance. Almost 100 years later, it still stands as one of the best romantic comedies. And at number 1, we have City Lights from 1931, directed by Charlie Chaplin. Following the release of 1927's The Jazz Singer, the first film to feature recorded dialogue, albeit only in certain scenes, the use of sound in films quickly progressed. By the end of the 1920s, films with spoken dialogue had become the norm, and yet a few filmmakers remained dedicated to making films without it. One such film was Charlie Chaplin. The cinematic icon had made a name for himself in the early 1910s and 1920s in silent comedies such as The Kid and The Gold Rush, and seemed to be in no rush to abandon that storytelling method. City Lights was Chaplin's final film without any recorded dialogue whatsoever, and it also stands as one of his most well-respected works. The film, which follows Chaplin as his famous tramp character as he attempts to win the heart of Virginia Cheryl's unnamed blind flower girl. It is a perfect showcase of everything that made him one of the best silent filmmakers. All of its gags are thoroughly entertaining, enhanced by Chaplin's undeniable charm and skill as a performer. In the modern day, silent films are often looked down upon, however City Lights remains one of the funniest rom-coms ever created, solidifying its place as the single most essential romantic comedy that everyone should see at least once. And there you have it, there's our list. So what do you think? What is your favourite rom-com of all time? Let us know in the comment section down below. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button if you are new around here. That's all for now, so I'd like to thank you for watching, and we'll see you later. Pop pop!